Continue our knowledge sharing mission through a series of interviews with marketing leaders from all over the world, and are thrilled to have Victoria with us today. Victoria?
Hello, welcome to CMO Chats. I'm Victoria McCafferty, Regional CMO of Thomson Reuters APAC.
Amazing. Great to have you, Victoria. Can you tell us a bit about your journey and what sparked your interest in marketing?
Sure. Well, I've been in marketing for more than 20 years. My current roles is Thomson Reuters, my company. It's a Canadian information technology company, and I've been at my current role for 10 years, which has gone very, very quickly. I think what interests me about marketing is people. A lot of what drives marketers who are successful, very focused on the client, the individual, how we service those needs of the client, with a lot of interest in data and technology kind of backing a whole lot of that up. So my current role, we focus on how we serve professionals. So that includes lawyers, accountants, risk professionals, everything in between. A couple of our big products are Westlaw and OneSource, for example. So large global corporates all the way down to one-man bands across Asia Pacific. So very diverse, very interesting, fast-moving. No day is the same, I would say. So that's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
That sounds really exciting, Victoria. Thanks a lot for sharing that. And what is currently your main marketing focus at the moment?
My big focus is developing the marketing function of the future. So I think being in APAC is super interesting, high growth, very dynamic, lots of movement, but so is the profession of marketing. So what are the skill sets that we have now? How is that going to change for the future? And how can I arm my team to be that dynamic marketer that we're all looking for? In particular, for Thomson Reuters, we are in a growth mode, and marketing is at the pointy end of growth. We tend to go first. You know, we're kind of the foreguard, the vanguard. We go into the different regions. We see the marketplace. Do we develop the opportunities, the relationships that pave the way for the sales function? So that's my big focus, is how I get my team moving fast enough with the right skill sets that can do that. Part of it, I think, is moving from being a very traditional marketing function, very much focused on campaign, to one that's much more focused on the future growth of the organization. So being a business advisor, we also have to have quite technical skill sets in the world we operate in. And I have a lot of 120 countries officially in my region, which is a lot. So how we use technology to reach those clients and keep it very focused on what they need is our biggest challenge. So developing that team is my biggest goal.
Yeah. And I completely agree with what you've mentioned, that you can really see the role of the marketer has really evolved, and you're not just focused on, helping the sales team, but rather the whole business as a whole. So that's very, very relevant, Victoria. Thanks a lot for sharing that. And so we move into the next question, right? So what particularly, innovative or successful marketing campaign has your team recently executed?
Well, the biggest one that I think of we've done this year and last is our Synergy conference. So we have client market conference that's been in our North America, Europe markets for a number of years. It's called Synergy. It hosts hundreds of professionals, very VIP guests, looking at trends, looking at thought leadership, looking at what it takes for their business to be successful. We launched our first inaugural Synergies in APAC last year with our Australia version, our Sydney Synergy. We also had Singapore and Dubai, and this year is expanded to Tokyo as well. So actually 2 days from now, we'll have our Tokyo Synergy. So the reason why I like them, many, our impact, being able to be face-to-face with clients, not just to answer their questions and to hopefully do a good job of being their vendor of choice, but also just to have that face-to-face interaction for the team. It's a huge energy boost, both marketing, sales, all the customer-facing roles love to be client-facing, but also really to help educate the marketplaces. So we believe we have the best tools, systems, information, the content piece that can really serve our clients. So seeing them respond, hearing the interactions is just wonderful. We've had a really good response to that, and also a little bit of spoiling. So we love to spoil clients, and that's good fun for the full team as well. So they've had great impact on our brand, which is something that we're really hotly monitoring, really essential for us to be present in the marketplaces. I think in the very digitized world that we operate in, it's easy to forget the client face to face, but the impact is huge when you make the time for it. So our synergies are going from strength to strength and will continue to get bigger. And I'm hoping many multiple regions for the years ahead.
Sounds very promising and very exciting. Good luck as well with the upcoming event. I think in
Thank you.
2 days, I'm pretty sure it's gonna go well. But you've talked about successful campaigns that you have executed. So I'm curious to know any challenges in terms of marketing that you have encountered in recent years or months.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think increasingly people. So we are going really fast, and finding talent is, I think you hear this a lot from CMOs, right? Finding the right talent, the right region, the right skill set is really quite hard. And I'm really lucky we have some exceptional talent in Thomson Reuters, and my team especially, really senior, smart people who know much better than I do about lots of things, which I love. But how do we continue to grow the leaders of the future? So how do we upskill them? How do we get not just the people skills, the soft side, but the hard skills? Marketing is very tech focused these days. You have to know how to do it. How do we make sure we make the space for learning so my team don't fall behind and don't have those fresh skill sets that really make all the difference? The AI is a big part of that, and my team are super excited by AI, and I'm dazzled by what they can do so far. But if I don't make the space in their day for that learning, then we will fall behind. I think the other part, a couple of other things that are sort of challenging us is, in some ways it's a challenge and opportunity, right? But the geopolitical landscape and the movement in the geopolitics for us is a huge challenge. So we operate from the Middle East round to New Zealand and Tokyo on a globe, and there's never really a point where there's no unrest. There's no movement by the marketplaces. So the team need to be really adaptable, and we need to be flexible. We need to support each other. And when there is a big issue, as there are a number of right now, how do we adapt to conquer that together is really what I'm focused on. And maybe the third one, if I can name another challenge, would be, how do we personalize our approach? We're all about the client, and that's what we spend a lot of time talking about in the company, marketing specifically, but Thomson Reuters generally. But how do we give you a personalized experience rather than just being part of the noise? That's one problem I think is in marketing, right? So what's the content? What's the message? Why should you listen to us above the competition? Because we know there are a lot of vendors out there, right? It's hard to be very personalized with that, but how do we get that cut through and be meaningful in the busy world we operate in is definitely an ongoing challenge, but also opportunity. So it goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with everything that you've mentioned. I think the three challenges that you've shared are also seen across the board, like across other of the marketers that we've also spoken to. So very, very relevant, especially, with all of the current situations and all of the things happening around the world right now. But despite all of those challenges, I'm curious to know, how does your company stay ahead of, all of the competitors that you have in terms of marketing?
Yeah, I think the grass is always greener, and that's human nature to think the grass is greener, because you look at people's campaigns, you think, oh, that's great, so interesting, that's a good message. I think it's the wrong focus, because if you're looking at a campaign now, today, you're already months behind planning that. So if you are very reactive, and for every campaign that you see out there, you try and put something out and market yourself that matches that or responds to it, you're playing from behind. I think the better way to do that is to maintain an external focus. So making the time for learning, which includes reviewing competitive activity, but also really trying to be innovative. So try new things. I think that's the old adage that you've got to fail quite a lot to succeed, right? So fail with 3 campaigns, succeed with 3 campaigns, try new things. Don't worry too much about what the competition are doing today. Try and plan for the future.
Absolutely hear that. And I think with all of the tools available in this day and age, the possibilities are really endless. And so I do think it's really in terms of, the creativity of a lot of the folks working in marketing right now. But again, completely resonate with what you've mentioned. And so that brings us into the next question in terms of, what do you believe is the biggest opportunity for CMOs or other marketing leaders today that might not have been, available in the past?
And well, AI is the obvious one. I could not mention AI in this. I think we are already seeing great benefits from AI. Really dynamic, fast campaigns, moving faster than we have before. Frankly, cutting our budget for some areas. We've done quite a lot of savings on the content side, but I think AI is one of those innovations that multiplies the workforce. So rather than needing 5 people to run that, you've got someone who can really get a little bit in the skill set and develop more campaigns, stronger campaigns, focus on the things that count, rather than the itty bitty, have I paid my vendor? Can I create a banner that does this and says that, or can I write a paragraph of content? So I think AI is a huge opportunity and already here, right? We've got an ROI saving, an ROI target this year for AI, and I think we're going to smash it. So I think the double win for the role that I have in my team right now through APAC is AI can think for us and maintain the level of customization by geography, in fact, improve the customization by geography, right? So I want to serve up content to my client, and I want it to be really specific to the country they operate in, to the way business is done, to the language and tone of voice, and all those things that should vary if you want something powerful to run across APAC. And then I also think that, and this is for the data geeks, which I'm totally part of. I love my data. I love analyzing things. Is it can tell, AI can do a huge volume of data in an instance. So what would have taken me months to work out and provide insights to my business, it can give me in a minute, which is amazing to do. And we have just scratched the surface for that analysis piece, that insights piece. So I'm so excited to see what happens next there, really.
Absolutely. It's definitely just the beginning of AI, and it has allowed us to work so much smarter and better in the last couple of months that it has been, applicable for everyone. So that's really, really great. And I think that kind of ties into the next question, right? We've talked about AI, but what else do you think factors into the future of marketing? Or how do you think does the future of marketing look like?
I think this is for more professions than marketing, that we will have less rigid swim lanes for roles ongoing. So I think, and I think this in hiring as well, if you don't have the marketing experience, that's something I can train. What I can't train is someone who can think dynamically and who can give those insights in a bigger and better way. So I think the future of marketing is less being in my swim lane and more being a business leader. That is something that's very hard to train for. It's a mindset, really. What I see marketers failing at kind of achieving this is it's a little bit like a conveyor belt. I will receive X, Y, and Z information from the business, and I will spit out a marketing plan, and it will look exactly like this, and it will have these. But I think that's the way of the past, really. I mean, to be honest, ChatGPT could do that for you. So that's fine. You don't need to be that. But I think what ChatGPT can't do for you is do the inner thinking, know the client, be the business leader, see the opportunities, work out the harder part of marketing. So I think that'll force us to be smarter marketers and also be less worried about the title of marketing and more about being a business leader.
Absolutely agree. And I think that has also been seen across the board that the function of the marketing team isn't just limited to, working with the sales team, but rather, again, supporting the whole business itself. And yeah, I think learning more about the technology part of it is also a huge factor into the development of the marketing role moving forward. And so that also brings us into the next question. What do you think is the role of the CMO or the marketing director in one word, and why?
Easy one. It's growth. So I think being a growth leader, looking for the opportunity, looking for new markets, looking for new opportunities, thinking outside the box. I think if your team are set up for success and they have the skill sets and they're being dynamic and creative, you don't need to worry about that. I think lift your vision, to see the forest for the trees, right? See the forest more than the trees, see the bigger picture, work out how your team can play in that. And I think that also leads to better business level discussions. So no one really wants, other leaders in the business, they don't want to really talk about the very jargony marketing that we can often kind of get into the trap of discussing. They want to talk about how we grow the business. So growth, absolutely growth.
That's great. And so that brings us into the next question, which is mostly on the advice that you may have. So first question is, what's a piece of traditional leadership advice that you believe doesn't really apply to modern CMOs or marketing leaders today?
I would say a few things. So I think being less focused on the hierarchy, don't pay attention to, I wouldn't want to skip a level and have that discussion. Have the discussions with leaders in the business, put time in their diary. If you're a junior marketer, have them educate you, force them to educate you on how the business runs, how it works, be part of that discussion. I think that the flatter the org structure, almost the better in some ways. So that just teaches us faster than anything else. I also think that, just thinking back to how I learned marketing, it can be very formulaic and it can be very jargon based, like lots of jargon, lots of terms, lots of words, and use this formula to get X. I think one size fits all doesn't really work. I think that stops creativity, it stops innovation, it stops you trying new things. So don't rinse and repeat the campaign that you did 5 times in a row. You must change it or it won't work anymore. So
I think it's also being a bit more inclusive with everyone, no? I think it's really something that we have to be more, I guess, wary in terms of our roles and who else we're working with, to make sure that, they know what we're working with and what we're working on currently. And so that brings us into the last question. What career advice would you like to share with other marketing leaders?
I think I would say, like, marketing is a made-up term. We've decided what it is. This is what's included. This is what's not included. I think being a business leader is what you should focus on. And actually, when I look and reflect on those who I have had the fortune to work with or who are in my team now, and I look at success, it's really correlated with being a business leader more than being a marketer in itself. So do you know how your business operates? Where does the growth come from? What are the challenges to success? What are the cost challenges of the business? How will that work? How do you open up new marketplaces? So those sorts of questions are much more powerful than the campaign that leads to. So how do you do that? I think you spend a really significant portion of your time being client focused. So have you met with a client? If that's what client customer, have you met with them in the last month? If you haven't, you should be meeting with them much more often and relentlessly learning. So how have you learned about the new tools, the tactics, not just of the competition today, but what's happening next? What can you be doing to lead the way in that is just a much better mindset to be in than just focusing, I guess, on that swim lane again, on just exactly doing the cookie cutter view of marketing.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that advice, Victoria. And that concludes the interview. Thank you so much for your responses.
Thank you so much, Yara. Lovely to meet you.